So in this series of videos, I'm going to show you how to construct something in 3ds Max and then move it into Lumion. So to start off, we're going to model a small cottage in 3ds Max with the components from AEC objects. We talked about AEC objects some time back. If you go into your Create panel and if you drop this menu down, you'll find AEC objects like windows, doors, and other AEC extended objects. If you go to AEC extended, you'll get walls. So we're going to use those elements and create a small cottage in 3ds Max, and then we're going to move that onto Lumion. So to start off, we're going to go and extract the floor plan. You should have this PDF on your canvas. Extract the floor plan and then bring it into 3ds Max. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my snipping tool, create an extraction of the floor plan. I'm going to save it on my desktop. And then I'm going to create a plane. Go to the Create panel, Geometry, Standard Primitives. I'm going to create a plane. Now I'm making it very thin deliberately just to see how it's going to look like when I add my plan. So I'm going to create this very narrow plane, and then as in our previous videos, as you saw, we can create a material and then add it into the plane that we just created. So I can click on this material editor, or I can press M on my keyboard. It does the same thing. When you open up the material editor, you will see the slate material editor, and in order to make things simpler, I'm going to go and click on the modes and make it the compact material editor, which brings us to this view. Now if you see a different view, that's okay, that's completely okay. You can click here where it says physical, and instead of physical you can go here and then select standard, and then you should see the same interface that I'm seeing. So if you see a button called physical here, don't worry about that, click on that and go to scanline standard, and then you should get back to this point. And once I have the material editor open, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on in front of diffuse, there's this small box. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on Bitmap. Gonna scroll, navigate to where I had my flow plan saved, and I'm going to say open. And now it's applied as a material, and I'm just going to drag and drop it onto my plane. Nothing's gonna be viewable. You won't be able to see anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this standard, and then material, and then say realistic material with maps. Then you'll begin to see the material applied. I'm going to do the same thing here. I want to see it on my top view. I'm going to go into wireframe and make it default shading, and then you should see how your plan is actually deformed. So we need to figure out a way to have it not deformed. So I'm going to, while I've selected my viewport, I'm going to maximize it like so, and I'm going to apply a modifier called the Uvw Map. So let's go into, I'm going to select make sure that I'm in my move tool. I'm going to go into the modifier list, and I'm going to go into, press U and go to Uvw Map, and the Uvw Map is applied. And then I'm going to scroll down just a bit, and then I'm going to go into this button which says Bitmap Fit. I'm going to click on that and navigate to where my flow plan is. What it's going to do is it's basically going to resize this bitmap that's applied according to the size that's the original size of the file. So let's see what happens. Double click on it, and you see now it's resized, and I have a bunch of these in the same thin or narrow plane. So I need a way to figure out how to chop these parts off and just use the middle part. Now this is not dimensionally accurate but proportionally accurate. So I need a way to figure out how to accurately scale this, but for now it's proportionally accurate. The next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply another modifier, edit poly. You know edit poly, we've used edit poly before. So I'm going to use edit poly. Now before that I should have probably gone into the plane and make sure the length segments are 1 and the width segments are 1. So just click on the plane and just make these 1. Makes it easier for us to select these edges. Now go to the edit poly and I'm gonna go and one more thing, I'm gonna scroll down in edit poly and I'm gonna click on this preserve UVs and then scroll up again and select edges, and then I can select these edges and move them the way that I want to, whatever way that I want to, like so. So I'm moving the plane's edges so that it creates the area that I want. So this is the area that I'm going to use to create my model. So there we go. That's the first step in getting the bitmap on the plane. The next thing is scaling it. Now we don't know a dimension here, so I'm going to use a box and assume I'm going to maximize that for a bit. This is my perspective view. I'm on the top view, so right click on that to select that. There you go. I'm gonna assume that the front door is gonna be 3 feet wide. So I'm gonna draw a box. I was in the box command, so I'm gonna draw a box, and that's my width. I'm gonna make that 3 feet. So there we go. So now as you can see, my bitmap is rather small, so I need a way to scale it. Using my scale tool I can scale this bitmap. Now this is one instance where the scale tool is actually useful. So before I scale it, I can just select it and I can start scaling, but before that I want to move this this pivot point here so that I can accurately scale it. So while the plane is selected, I go into the hierarchy panel and I'm going to go to pivot, affect pivot only, and move it like the way that we did for the bowl example. So I move the pivot like so, and that's that, and I can go back, and now I can use my scale tool, and I'm gonna scale it uniformly. Obviously I don't want to scale it this way because then the proportions will be lost, so I'm gonna scale it uniformly using this last box and make sure that it's scaled until this point reaches the very edge of the box that I drew. Now I think that's fairly good. Yeah, I think that's, there you go. I think that's about right because I'm missing a small point here, so that's why I left some there. So I think that's scaled properly, so I can delete, oops, wrong one. I'm gonna select my box here. There you go. And now I have my drawing scaled properly. The next part is to add the walls and add the windows and doors. So let's talk about that in the next video.